10:59. Do you have any housekeeping stuff, Mr. Nastri?
Yes, Dr. Burke. With your permission, I'll go ahead and begin.
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for participating in our remote meeting today for the special governing board meeting. We have two formats for participation, the Zoom web application as well as teleconference. Please silence your other communication devices such as your cell or desk phone so that there aren't disruptions during the meeting. During the meeting, all participants on Zoom, except for board members and South Coast AQMD staff, will be placed on mute by the host. And that means that you won't be able to mute or unmute your lines manually. After each agenda item, the chairman will announce public comment. And for Zoom, for those of you that are on Zoom, and if you'd like to make public comment on the Zoom screen, please click on the raise hand button. And if you're using Zoom on your smartphone, please tap the raise hand button on the bottom of the screen. For those calling in on the phone line only, you can dial *9 on your keypad to signal that you would like to comment. And your name will be called when it's your turn to comment, and the host will unmute your line automatically. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes for the entirety of the consent calendar and 3 minutes or less each for other agenda items. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. And please note, you can hang up and leave the Zoom meeting at any time. And as far as decorum, we ask that you please adhere to the speaker time limit, treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. And failure to do so can result in your microphone being muted or you being dropped from the meeting. And that concludes the housekeeping remarks, Dr. Burke.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Gilchrist. Didn't you say that public comment will be restricted to the item on the agenda today?
Yes, sir, because it's a special meeting. There's only, under the Brown Act, public comment on the items that have been noticed for that. No general public comment.
Apologies, Dr. Burke. I just read the general comment, so good catch.
No problem. Would
Dr.
the clerk call the roll?
I thought I saw Councilman Rodriguez's name pop up, but then it popped back out.
I see Gideon as well.
Okay, we have a quorum now. Would the clerk call the roll?
Supervisor Barker, Supervisor Bartlett, Councilmember Buscaino, Councilmember Cacciati.
Here.
Senator Delgado, Board Member Krakoff,
Here.
Mayor McCallan,
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Here.
Supervisor Perez, Councilmember Rodriguez,
Here.
Vice Chair Benoit,
Here.
and Chairman Burke.
Here.
We have a quorum
Carlos,
of
are you
7.
still there?
Supervisor Rutherford's here.
And Senator Delgado's here.
Okay, thank you.
We have 9 board
9.
members.
Is Carlos still here? And Delgado just faded away.
She's
Hi,
here.
Dr. Burke.
Both are back.
I'm
Okay, we have some wireless problems here today.
I'm back.
We only have one item on the agenda. And I know that various people have other obligations today. So, and Ms. Mitchell is here.
I'm here. I had trouble getting in, but I tried another avenue and got through.
Great.
Thank you.
So we only have one item. Other people have, Krakoff, do you have a question?
U.S. County board members, Dr. Burke.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll take the presentation, we'll take public comment, and then we'll vote on this item as expeditiously as possible. Mr.
Thanks,
Nasser,
Doc.
you have the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Burke. Dr. Fine is going to do a very brief overview, and then based on that, we'll determine whether or not we want to move forward with the presentation. Dr. Fine?
Thank you, Wayne. Sarah's prepared to do the presentation, but I know a lot of things are going on today. So just very briefly, this is an amendment to Rule 445 to satisfy some EPA requirements for contingency measures. We have done this before for PM 2.5. This is to add similar provisions to satisfy, again, Clean Air Act requirements for ozone. This is can be viewed as sort of, these are very esoteric sort of requirements from EPA, and we've found that Rule 445 is the most painless way to satisfy those requirements. So happy to answer any questions, but we're prepared to waive the presentation given the all the activity in the basin today.
The last time we did this, we did it by telephone, right? Because we didn't have Zoom.
A special meeting.
Yes, on this type item.
Yeah.
Okay, I see that Supervisor Bartlett has joined us. And I thought I saw somebody else come on. Okay. Why don't we have a presentation? Just give
Very
us.
good. We'll do a very brief presentation, Dr. Burke.
Yes.
Great.
Dr. Reese?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to give an overview of the proposed amended rule for wood burning devices, Rule 445. Next slide, please. So this is a rule aimed at reducing PM 2.5 levels. It's directed at residential wood burning, and so it reduces PM levels by putting a number of restrictions on burning. Eventually, this is helpful for us to attain the National Ambient Air Quality Standards for particulates, but also when we reduce burning, we also reduce VOCs because burning produces VOCs as well, so there is a VOC benefit. Next slide, please. Background on contingency measures. These are additional measures that we need to take if in the basin we fail to attain either PM or ozone NAAQS. EPA is interpreting a recent court decision that requires additional contingency measures to be triggered if we fail to meet a NAAQS or fail to meet a milestone. We had very recently, you might remember, amended 445 to add PM 2.5 contingency measures. Now we're asking to amend it to add ozone contingency measures. Next slide. And so the reason for this proposed amendment, it is to add the contingency for ozone. We'll remind you that these measures only go into effect if triggered by EPA's determination that we fail to meet the standard or fail to meet a milestone, but we are under a deadline of October 31st to submit this to EPA, so we are on a tight schedule. Next slide, please. The proposed ozone contingency measure, it's looking at our 8-hour ozone forecast and is extending a no burn forecast if we hit 80 parts per billion, 75 parts per billion, or 70 parts per billion on a first, second, or third failure to by determination by EPA. We're also updating our definitions for ozone-based no burn forecast. Again, these are only going to be implemented in the event that we trigger this, so that in the event that EPA makes these determinations. Next slide, please. We're also extending the proposed wood burning season for ozone. So we're going into those shoulder seasons, looking into March and April, and then also adding September and October. And this is only if the first ozone contingency at 80 ppb is triggered. Next slide, please. So here's the estimated VOC reductions that we would get from triggering these contingency measures. You can see that they're fairly modest, but we are getting VOC reductions, and so this meets the requirements that EPA has in place of being able to get some additional reductions in the event of a failure to attain or to meet the milestone. Next slide, please. Our recommended actions is to determine that proposed amendments to Rule 445 are exempt from the requirements of CEQA, and then also to amend Rule 445 wood burning devices. With that, this concludes my presentation. We're happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Sarah? Is there any public comment on this issue?
There's one public commenter, or 3 public commenters. 4 public commenters, sir. 4.
Okay. Ben, you want to recognize them?
Sure. First public commenter, Amy J. Wong. Amy Wong.
It's now 5, sir. Did we want to stay with the general 3 minutes? I know some members.
Yeah, there's only 5. Let's stay with 3.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, go right
Yes.
ahead.
Great. Good morning, Chair Burke and governing board members. My name is Amy Wong with Active San Gabriel Valley. We're a community-based organization in El Monte dedicated to creating a more sustainable, equitable, and livable region. We work on a variety of environmental justice issues such as active transportation, parks and open spaces, air quality, and more. We recognize that all of you care about the bad air in our region, but we need the South Coast Air District to do everything in its authority to clean up the air at a broader collective level. This includes reducing pollution from buildings, refineries, warehouses, and ports. As we continue living through the COVID-19 pandemic, we see overlapping crises happening. Our community's health and wellness are at stake. The climate crisis is real and affects all of us, especially low-income communities of color who are being choked every day by dirty air. And like some of y'all mentioned, I too have been waking up to see ashes from the Bobcat fire, which has been burning for the past month or so in the San Gabriel Mountains. So I urge the district to be proactive, to work alongside partners like the California Air Resources Board and the federal EPA to do more to clean up our air. Thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to working together to further clean our air.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Emily Speaks. Emily, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Speaks, and I'm with the NELA Climate Collective. As a member of the historic Highland Park Neighborhood Council, I understand the formalities that exist in order to comply with rules. In the case of the AQMD, these EPA guidelines, it is my opinion that although it is important to increase no burn days alone are not going to solve our biggest problems. I myself live near the Bobcat fire, and I understand the importance of no burn, but I feel that this is not aggressive enough to make our air breathable now. The entire country is watching us, and I believe this board has the moral obligation to do everything in your power to attack and spend time and energy on the biggest of our problems. We have the opportunity to lead by example. If I remember correctly, in the thorough assessment you all made earlier this year regarding the quality of our air, wood burning was lower than that of the enormous emissions from trucks to the port. The problems with our air are so vast, I don't understand why we are not taking as drastic as measures as CARB. I thank you for your time. I hope you all remain healthy, and I encourage you to spend every moment of your time tirelessly to make the goals we need based on the gravity of the 2018 IPCC report. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Chris Chavez.
Yes, good morning, board members. My name is Chris Chavez, and I'm the Deputy Policy Director for Coalition for Clean Air. I'd like to first state our support for the proposed rule amendment. The importance of no burn days cannot be stressed enough, particularly given the wildfire situation that our state faces and that increasing threat due to the climate crisis. With that said, however, I want to note that the single contingency measure is not sufficient to put the basin back on a path to attainment. In its final contingency measure plan, South Coast AQMD made clear that they need 108 tons per day of NOx emissions from further deployment of cleaner technologies, these black box technologies. These come from on-road heavy-duty vehicles, off-road equipment, and federal and international sources. We can't rely on the federal government, which the district's plan does rely on the federal government. We can't rely on the federal government to meet the 67 to 69 tons per day of NOx reductions that this plan is based off of. The district's ability to reduce emissions by 3.2 to 5.2 tons per day from the ports is also questionable, considering the delayed implementation of the port MOU, as well as the delayed implementation of the truck rate. The district is also far behind in funding and securing incentive funding for emissions reductions. We need 200 to 300 million per year of the more than 1 billion needed to meet and stay on track to these to these reductions. It's going to be very difficult to meet these requirements and actually put the district back in a position where it can meet the attainment goals, particularly because this reliance on future technologies. Taken all together, all of these things point to the inescapable conclusion that South Coast does not have a credible plan to reach ozone attainment by 2023. And this one contingency measure, while important, does far too little to demonstrate reasonable further progress towards attainment. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Regina Su.
Yes, hi, Chair Burke and members of the board. My name is Regina Su, and I'm an attorney with Earth Justice. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. In advance of today's meeting, Earth Justice, along with many other organizations advocating for clean air, submitted a letter expressing our concern with the air quality trends in recent years. This year, residents in the South Coast Air Basin experienced the worst ozone pollution in almost 30 years, and it's clear that we are not on the right path to attain federal or state ozone standards, and this contingency measure will not get us there. We understand that the board is well aware of these air pollution problems and the disproportionate impact that it has on disadvantaged communities. And we appreciate that the board recognizes the importance of these issues. But if we are to have any chance of meeting our clean air standards, the Air District must do everything within its power to reduce NOx pollution. This means adopting strong regulations and policies to curb NOx pollution from all sources within its authority. While there's much to be done on the state and federal levels, the Air District has authority over significant sources of NOx pollution, such as refineries, warehouses, rail yards, and buildings, and must adopt regulations to cut emissions from these sources. We understand that the Air District staff is working hard on many of these regulations, but this ozone season has highlighted the need to move as quickly as possible to put us on the right track towards attainment and finally provide relief to millions who continue to breathe unhealthy air. We applaud the staff's work thus far on the warehouse indirect source rule, but note that the rulemaking has already been delayed several times. We also ask that the Air District adopt regulations to reduce emissions from residential and commercial appliances and start this rulemaking process as soon as possible. The last air plan projects that combustion from residential buildings alone will contribute more emissions than passenger cars by 2030. Given the significant reductions needed from building appliances, the Air District should consider adopting zero emission appliance standards. Finally, we urge the board to direct staff to consider climate change impacts in the 2022 AQMD. For years, we have seen rising temperatures and increasingly intense wildfires that have extended our ozone season. The Air District must take into account these impacts in its air quality planning. Unfortunately, this is our reality, and we will continue to fail to attain clean air standards if our next air plan does not factor in climate change. Thank you for your consideration. We urge the board to hold polluters accountable and stand with the South Coast residents who continue to suffer from dirty air.
Thank you for your comments. Jessica Craven.
Hey everybody, my name is Jessica Craven. I am a member of the NELA Climate Collective, also an elected member of the Los Angeles County Democratic Party, and an activist. And yeah, I won't be as articulate as the people who have gone before me. I don't have a prepared statement because I'm busy phone banking to make sure that we win the election next week. But I will say that once again, my family and I are trapped inside of our house because the air quality right now, the AQI is about 185 where I am. It's unhealthy for almost all groups. This is our reality in Los Angeles now, and I think about leaving all the time. And I am not the only person who thinks about leaving. Everybody I know with the means to leave is thinking about leaving or has left. This city is going to be abandoned by everybody who can afford to leave because it is not a healthy place to raise children. This is a very unjust situation because the people who stay are the people who cannot afford to get out. They will become sicker and the city will suffer more. You guys are the Air Quality Management Board. And frankly, I'm going to say something that is maybe a little hurtful, but I don't know how you sleep at night. your measures are inadequate. Addressing wood burning fires to check off a box for the EPA is awesome. It's nothing. It is nothing. You need to be aggressive. You need to be thinking of every possible way that you can very quickly turn around a situation that is growing untenable, or people will simply leave the state. And I don't know, to me, I would be up all night, every night, thinking of more extreme actions to take. And so great, we're not gonna have wood burning fires, but I'm sorry, you guys, it's not enough. Do something before people just give up and go live somewhere else. You have to do more. And everybody who has spoken before me has listed very reasonable, very doable things. But you know, we climate activists are on the ground, we'll support you, but you make the rules, you make the laws, you enforce the regulations. Please do it. We'll support you. We have your back. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. And staff, I see Councilman Buscaino is in the attendees list, if we can move him over. Our next speaker, Lewis Prescott, Leah Lewis Prescott.
Good morning, board members, and thank you for the opportunity to comment. My name is Leah Lewis Prescott, and I work in the Oakland office of Rocky Mountain Institute, an independent nonprofit working to shift our economy towards a low carbon future. We're also one of the organizations that signed on to the letter to the board on pollution reduction that Regina Su of Earth Justice had mentioned in her earlier comments. First, thank you to the Air District for all of its great work to reduce air pollution. I appreciate how much you care about improving the air quality in the district, and I thank you for continuing to work toward a safer, healthier future for Californians. This is more critical today than ever before, with worsening wildfire seasons, more dirty air days, and a global pandemic that's attacking our respiratory systems. A recent study by Emory University found that residents with greater exposure to nitrogen dioxide pollution are more likely to die from COVID-19. I asked the district to continue to do everything in its authority to reduce NOx pollution, for example, by strengthening building appliance standards. I applaud the district for having the strongest NOx standards in the state for water heaters and furnaces, and for setting an example for other air districts. And now I'm asking that you strengthen these rules to move toward zero NOx emission standards for furnaces and water heaters, as well as stoves and other appliances. The district's 2016 air quality management plan identified zero NOx appliances as a control strategy, and it included a target adoption year of 2018. It's now 2020. The time for action is overdue. And buildings are only one of a number of sectors that the district has authority over where it can help reduce pollution. Others include refineries, warehouses, and ports. And the district doesn't have to act alone. I urge you to work with other agencies, including CARB, the federal EPA, even the Energy Commission when it comes to buildings, to push for a greater pollution reduction throughout all sectors. With continued leadership from the South Coast Air Quality Management District, I know that we can achieve a cleaner and safer and healthier future. Thank you again for your commitment to clean air and public health, and thank you for the opportunity to comment today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Roxy B.
Hello, everybody. My name is Roxana Barrera. I am a local activist, organizer, mother, a member of the Youth Leader Advisory Council at the AQMD, and also the Parks and Rec Commissioner in San Bernardino. I live by the BNSF rail yard and always see trucks driving in and around my neighborhood on a daily basis. For me, air pollution coming from goods movement is a constant reminder to why we have such horrible air quality in our region, which is why AQMD can not only settle for adapting rules to reduce ozone that already exists. In order to reduce smog and teach attainment, I encourage you all to support an indirect source rule as well. I see many warehouses and trucks pollute by schools and parks where children go to learn and play. I am a concerned community member that worries about the health of my child and the conditions of our air quality every day. My son has had respiratory issues since he was born. He was prescribed an inhaler and has had to go to the hospital for breathing treatments when he has trouble breathing. They haven't diagnosed him with asthma because he is too young, but is it normal for a 2-year-old to own an inhaler for breathing treatments? I don't think it is. We can no longer allow big corporations to place their profits above our welfare. I understand that it is difficult to make others take accountability for how they are affecting my neighborhoods, but the Air District has to put a stop to it by adopting indirect sources rule. This will be a step into a cleaner future for us and our children. We can bring new jobs and technology into our region. Please allow for new rules to help our community move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Roxy, I'm sorry, Roxy went, Cora went. Cora?
Good morning, everyone. My name is
Morning.
Cora Went, and I'm a physics PhD student at Caltech and a member of the Sunrise Movement in Los Angeles, which is a movement of young people uniting to stop the climate crisis. Our group is also in the process of signing on to the letter that Regina Su from Earth Justice mentioned. We have all experienced bad air in our region, which has been exacerbated by a wave of wildfires made worse each year by climate change. And this is an especially pressing issue given the links between pollution and the pandemic. So we need the South Coast Air District to do everything in its authority to clean up the air, including reducing pollution from sources like buildings, refineries, warehouses, and ports. Today, I'd like to encourage the South Coast Air District to take two specific actions, although I do support many of the others that have been mentioned during this public comment. The first is to put policies in place that reduce NOx pollution from buildings, move towards zero NOx appliances, and a move towards 100% building electrification. And the second is to incorporate the reality of climate change into air quality planning and recognize that we are shooting at the wrong target if we don't incorporate the increasing detrimental effects of wildfires as climate change accelerates on our air quality. We also want to work with you to encourage other agencies like CARB and the federal EPA to do more to clean up our air. Thank you so much for listening today, and we look forward to working together to further clean our air and stop the climate crisis.
Great, thank you. I believe that's our last speaker. I thought I had one more person in the queue, but it looks like their hand's no longer up.
So that concludes our testimony. Do I have any comments by any of my colleagues as it relates to Ms. Reese's presentation? Can I get a motion then on this item?
Move approval of staff's recommendation, Cacchiotti.
Second, Benoit.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Supervisor Barger, Supervisor Bartlett,
Yes.
Councilmember Buscaino, Councilmember Buscaino, Councilmember Cacchiotti,
Yes.
Senator Delgado,
Yes.
Board Member Krakoff,
Yes.
Mayor McCallan,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Supervisor Perez, Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Supervisor Rutherford,
Yes.
Vice Chair Benoit,
Yes.
and Chairman Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 10 with 3 absent.
Mr. Gilchrist, do we have any other business before the committee?
No, sir. Since this is a special meeting, there's no general public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Then that adjourns the special meeting.
Dr. Burke?
Yes.
Dr. Burke, I'm sorry to interrupt there. I was having some technical difficulties and unable to get in right at the very beginning of the meeting. Just wanted to ask that our colleagues, I'm sure thoughts and prayers continue to be with those families and firefighters that are going through the tragic Blue Ridge fires that have at this time about 6,600 acres have been destroyed and thousands evacuated. Brea, Chino Hills, Yorba Linda. I'm calling from our family members' garage in Anaheim as we were evacuated, like many last night. Also, join me in our thoughts and prayers for those dealing with the Silverado fires. 12 almost 12,000 acres as well, impacted. 90,000 appears to have been evacuated. So again, just certainly everyone in our district is going to be impacted by this, and look forward to continuing to do what we can to be supportive of one another during this difficult time. Thank you so much.
Be safe, Carlos. If you need me, call me.
Thank you, sir.
Okay?
Supervisor Bartlett?
Yes,
Oh, thank
Supervisor.
you. I was having technical difficulties too, just like Councilmember Rodriguez. So he brought up some really good points here in Orange County and kind of what we're facing right now with the fires. You know, a lot of acreage, some in Councilmember Rodriguez's city area, and then some of the areas down in my district in Lake Forest with the Silverado fire, and a number of residents have had to be evacuated. So the air quality from the smoke and ash from the fires is really impactful. I mean, we've had everybody closing up their windows. When you go outside, the cars are just covered, and the backyards and balconies are covered with the ash. And so you can just see what's happening with the debris and the air quality right now. So just wanted to kind of bring that up to everyone's attention as we get through the unfortunate fires that are occurring right now. And then secondly, question for Wayne or staff relative to the All-American Asphalt plant that's in Irvine. It seems to be a continued source of community concern with some of the vapors that are coming out of the plant. And it's actually located in the Silverado fire evacuation zone right now. And I know that the team at AQMD sent out a very good response letter. And I was just wondering if we could include that letter on our website to provide information out to the community relative to ongoing investigations that would help us get information posted that's timely and really impactful and informative, and reduce the number of calls coming into the board members and to staff and so on. But it would be a great one-stop shop for the community at large to get some very valuable information about things that are ongoing relative to the investigation. So I just wanted to pose that to staff.
Thank you, Supervisor. In fact, at our morning senior staff meeting, that was one of the things that we discussed. I'm sure you'll be pleased to know that we still remain on top of the All-American Asphalt. As you identified, they did have to evacuate yesterday. We know that their personnel were going in early this morning to assess. We understand that they may have suffered some damage to one of their buildings, but we're trying to find out exactly what's going on. So the concept of posting information to make it more broadly available, as I said, we're discussing, we're working on that, and I will keep both you and the councilman apprised of our efforts as we progress throughout the day and our findings.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
In keeping with your comments about the fire, I was evacuated from my home for a week and had a little baby puppy and an older dog with me, and a cat in a hotel room in Marina Del Rey. It was like being in a three-ring circus while you're worrying about your home burning down. The climatic conditions are horrible, and they're going to stay that way even after this fire goes out. And we have to aggressively find a way to deal with this. The testimony this morning about the hot water heaters and things like that, though, that's low-hanging fruit for us. And I've been talking to Wayne about it now for at least 2 or 3 years. And we need to get on some of this stuff, Wayne. You know, it's time to move it. The thing that bothered me about the testimony this morning was that I don't think I'll bring it up. It's okay. This concludes everything I think that we need to cover. Is there anything else that we need to cover, Wayne? Wayne?
Sorry, Dr. Burke, I was on mute.
Yeah.
No, I think the point that you were going to raise, perhaps dealing with other agencies and their timelines is something that we need to really work to. But the point that you made about some of that lower hanging fruit, it's definitely, we'll do that.
What I was going to mention was the letter that was circulated at CARB by the minority people of color at CARB and their requests. But you know, I don't want to stick my finger in that sore. That's another agency. That's their thing. But it's why I resigned from that board. Anyway, I think we adjourn the special meeting, and I'll see everybody at the regular board meeting. What is a week from Friday?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you, Dr. Buck.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care. You all.
Go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers, right.
Go Dodgers, win this.